Nice. Yes. Whew. Okay. We're back. I'm not going to mess around with the sound anymore. So you get the camera sound. Sorry about that. Next time I'll have this figured out. Not sure what's going on. I don't know. I feel like trying out the sound to see if this will be better. Maybe I shouldn't mess with it. Okay. Alright folks, so we're going to be doing a drawing just to reiterate. I will be doing a drawing of somebody that leaves a comment after this video is live down below, and I'm going to use a random comment picker like I usually do to give away a JetBrains license. Cool, so we've got, just to repeat, an M1 Air over here. When you see it, it'll look like this on the screen with the M1 Air at the top. Not to be confused with this machine, which is the MacBook Pro Intel model. Okay, so today we are going to be looking at some performance of Docker and see how the different images behave. We're going to start with a basic test. Just to see what the memory usage is. We're going to compare the two machines and what the memory usage is on each one. We're going to do a build, and I'm going to answer a couple of comments here from folks that have left them on my previous Docker video. And if you have specific questions, feel free to post them in the chat as well. I'm also going to do a Node.js run, and we're going to compare the ARM architecture of that with the base or the x64 architecture of that. Okay. Clover says, got a question if possible. I'm looking to buy a new laptop for personal use. Is the 13-inch M1 Mac Air good for light development? I'd say, yeah, it's pretty good for basic stuff. It's a good machine. Simiani Drew says, any good free online courses on Docker? The ones I can find are very expensive. Well, there's YouTube. You can take a look at YouTube, and maybe some cheap courses on Udemy. I haven't actually seen any. I use Pluralsight, and that's because I'm an author there, so I've been using that. And there's some really good courses on there on Docker. Alright, so here we go, right away. Juan says, can you run x86 Docker images on M1? And that is one of the things we're going to look at today. Alizuvic asks the same question as well. So, from what I understand, you can run x86 images on Docker using QEMU. QEMU, right? So QEMU, I guess, recently added to Docker. I'm not 100% sure on that. But we're going to test this out today and see if that actually makes sense or not. And if anybody in the comments knows specific specific queries or specific commands you want me to run, let me know there as well. All right. So first things first, I have a list of things we're going to go through here. Let's get Docker on these machines, shall we? So I already have Docker here, actually. I have Docker on the MacBook Pro, but I want to make sure that I get the latest version of Docker on the M1. So I'm going to run Docker app here. Here's the MacBook Pro, Docker starting up. And I want to take a look at the resting speed here and just jot everything down to make sure We're keeping track of this because I want to report this later on to all of you and let you know what the final results are. Alright, so that's starting up. Now on my M1 here, I'm going to start up Docker here as well. And I want to check out the version because I want to make sure that this is running the latest ARM version. So who knows what version of Docker supports ARM? Anybody in the comments there? Let me know. I believe I have the right version on there, but just want to make sure. Alright, Docker started on both of these. Let's check out the resting memory usage. Okay, so memory is okay. Docker desktop. Here's Docker over here, 25 megabytes. That doesn't seem right. Is it this one? Okay, so that's M1. Let's take a look at the MacBook Pro. Memory usage. Okay, this is the process that's clearly the Docker process. It's taking up 2.37 gigabytes. I don't see this process on the M1, so I'm not sure what I'm missing here. Zoltan says Docker 3.3.3 is the newest ARM native. Let's see. Let's see what version I am running. Three point 3.1. So 3.3.1 is not ARM native? Alright, we're going to update this. Let's do it on the M1 also. Just want to make sure I'm up to date. Okay, so it looks like I'm a version behind. Let's update this thing. Okay, while it's doing its thing, let's see what you guys are saying over here. Okay. Alright. Jobin's text says, guys, all smash the like button and make it 100. I like that. I like the sound of that. Aishik Duta says that's why you don't see the process in M1. Difference is architecture. Okay. Alright, so Don Aldo says search for Kimu in the activity monitor. So yeah, that's the one I saw in there, in the activity monitor on the M1. I did see this process right here, which is 2.57 gigabytes. And that makes sense to me. That makes sense because that's about the same as this process right here, the com.docker.hyperkit process on the MacBook Pro Intel. So they're about the same size and they're the biggest process running right now. And I've started Docker, that's the only program I'm running, so that makes sense. But why are they named so differently? That's what I don't know. Alex Schwartz says 3.3.1 supports ARM. Yeah, I thought it did, but just to make sure, I want to make sure that we get the latest version, 3.3.3, and I was offered an update, so I went for it just to make sure I have the latest. So hopefully this was updated. Let's just quit this and restart. Update and restart. Update and restart Docker, or update and restart my machine. Alright, let's do that. Update and restart. Alright, I'm gonna have some fans here, some Docker fans in the comments that know their shit, that know their Docker shit. So I'm gonna ask you folks for some help on that. Yes, 3.3.3, good. So we've got that up to date on the MacBook Pro and MacBook Air is starting up. So I wanted to be on the latest version of everything, and that's why this is good. This is good that somebody mentioned 3.3.3 in the comments, in the chat there, so we can use that. We've got the same version on both of these machines now. There's that QEMU system ARC64 process running. And let's take a look at the CPU on that one. Okay, so that is running under Apple. And check it out, folks. Docker Desktop is actually an Intel-based process. Where is that? Where'd it go? There it is. So Docker Desktop is an Intel-based process, but Docker itself is an Apple-based process. So that's good to know. They haven't converted Docker Desktop yet, I guess. All right, let's write this down. 2.8 resting temperature, 2.8 gigabytes on the M1. And on the MacBook Pro, 2.37. All right, next test. Let's do a quick Hello World build, shall we? Nope, not that one. Delete, delete. I'm going to just clear everything up. We don't need all this old stuff hanging out. Alright, so folks, Hyper-V versus QEMU. What's up with that? Anybody know? Why the difference in the naming of the process? Really curious about that. Just deleting all my images, making sure everything's clean, so we have a clean slate to start from. Alright, let's see. Alex Schwartz says, did you download the Apple chip version of Docker? Well, I thought I did, but I mean, what process are we looking for? Does anybody know what process? Because let's take a look at this process right here. It's running under Apple, so I'm guessing that I did. And I believe when I downloaded this, I clicked on the Apple Silicon version. So this right here is telling me that it's running under the Apple architecture and it's a Docker process. So I'm assuming this is the Docker version. The Docker Apple version, that is. Here's Docker itself running under Apple. So I'm pretty sure now that this is the Apple version. So Juan says check com.docker processes. Let's do that. Here we go. Yeah, we got everything Apple except for this one. com.docker.osxfs. Okay, Zoltan says you have the right versions. Don't worry, I guess it's QEMU hypervisor for M1 because it's one of the rare ones running natively on Hyper-V on Intel because, well, they chose that out of many. Cool. All right, we've got the right versions. Let's keep going. So the first thing I'm going to do here is back on my Intel Pro machine. Let's go to code, Docker. Okay, I've got a couple of projects here for Node, but let's just kick things off with a very simple hello world test. I don't have any images or containers on both of these. So what I want to do is grab the basic image, the hello world image. And this is directly from the tutorial. So this is going to grab the hello world project and make a clone of it. Docker getting started.git. Yeah. Okay. Okay, there's our getting started project. So I'm going to go in there, and now I need to do a build. I'm going to time this build, and I'm going to not do this at the same time on both machines because, as many of you pointed out in the comments from my previous video, it's using the network. So even this test right here might not be super accurate because it's going to use the network, and network fluctuates. So I'm going to time it, but this is going to be a rough time, and at least they're not going to run at the same time. Docker build, and we want to tag, let's just call this Docker 101 tutorial. Okay. Uh-oh, what did I do? There we go. Okay, while that's happening, I'm going to do the same thing over on my M1 machine, just to get things kind of in the same area. And then we'll take a look at some of the comments folks are leaving. By the way, doing this live is not as streamlined as doing it recorded. Especially because I'm terrible at typing. The amount of editing I have to do is ridiculous afterwards. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm just doing the same thing I did on the MacBook M1 now. So now we're going to time a build here. Docker build -t Docker 101 tutorial here. Alright, so we've got a time for, here, we got our first results, folks. We got a time for the Intel build, and that took 24 seconds. Or is it 50? I think it's the, no, it's 24 seconds, yeah. So I'm going to write that down. And the M1 is still building. All right, Alexander Kim says, do you know how to enable Docker build X command with Docker for desktop? I think you can install BuildX, but I haven't done that here yet, so maybe somebody else in the comments knows. Alright, we got a result. Hey, look at this. This one took longer. Well, maybe we'll discover some stuff that we didn't know about the M1. Like maybe it takes longer to build. So I want to do a subsequent build because this one's going to take less. And this one took 0.78. Let's do it again. So about 0.78, 0.77. I don't know if that matters to anybody, but I thought I'd just gather this information. And this one is faster. So the Intel machine is faster doing these builds. That's interesting. Those of you folks in the comments that bought an Intel machine and use Docker, you can rejoice. So far, it seems to be faster. Looks like Aishik is celebrating, and so is Mattia. I don't know, maybe this is the first version of Docker for Apple Silicon, and maybe you know, maybe they have a little work to do. Who knows? Yeah, Lucas says you can't use repetitive builds because it just references the hash of the image. Yeah, that's why it takes only half a second or so, but I still wanted to see how long that process takes. Even though it's reading from the cache, it's still faster on the Intel machine. Okay. Alright, next test. Let's go over to the next test, which is the using memory. So we're going to take a look at running this Hello World box container, and we're going to see how much memory it takes up. let's start with the M1. So we're going to map port 80, name, Docker, Docker tutorial, and we're going to use Docker 101 tutorial. Okay, so that started up. Let's take a look at stats. Alright, so I did recently catch a video on YouTube of somebody doing Docker memory tests, and they said that the memory was much higher. The usage on the M1 was much higher. I wanted to see this for myself. I haven't done this yet, so we're going to see it now together. Right now we've got this basic Hello World container running at 5.6 megabytes. Let's check this out on the Intel. So Docker run dp. I'll map the port. Why not? And let's go. Okay, interesting. Memory usage is higher on the Intel box. So on the M1, memory usage is 5.6, and on the Intel, memory usage is 8.3. Interesting. Anybody know what's happening there? Why is the memory usage of a basic Hello World container higher on an Intel box? Please don't touch the screen. Is it going to affect the performance, or you just don't like the you don't like how that looks, or you hate fingerprints? I know. After this, I'm gonna wipe this down, and I hate it when I have fingerprint smudges on my laptops also. It's just, you know, when I use the iPad, I like to touch the screen and move it around, but so used to touching the screen now, it's kind of hard not to. Alright, what do we got here? Raihan says, I'm getting a lot of problems in my M1 MacBook Air for Docker. Well, that's what we're doing today. Wildburn says, are the Intel and M1 both same basic Docker settings? These are basically default installations. I did not mess with it. So, yeah, they are. Matthias says, the Intel box has a lot more abstraction layers than M1, I would say. That could be. Bass says, thanks, I hate the fingerprints. Yeah, me too. iShik says, M1 may have better memory management. Yeah, possible. So we're still at those same memory usage statistics on both of these boxes. Pawan says, would you still recommend MacBook Pro 16 over M1? I would say wait. Let's see what the next generation of the M2 will be. That's the one I'm waiting for. If you're thinking about buying a Mac this year, I would really just wait and see what happens at the end of this year. All right, folks, what's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? We got a couple more tests to do. Oops. Not smooth, Alex. Not smooth. Okay. So I did get a question from a commenter the other day, and a few questions about using x86 images on ARM processor. So a few questions regarding that, but also how much memory are multiple containers going to take up. So let's try kicking up a few of these containers at the same time and see how long that takes. So I'm gonna do another run command. Let's change this, give it another number and give it another port. Oops. Let's do 81. You probably want to see what I'm doing. So I'm doing this on the Intel box now, and I'm just gonna kick up a couple of processes, a couple of containers with the same image to see a few of them running at the same time, and whether the memory footprint, the cumulative memory footprint, is going to be affected by this. Alright, so I've got, what, 3 of them running? 4. And I'm going to do the same thing on the MacBook Air M1. Now, I wish I had a really big image to run to test that out, but I currently don't. And if any of you in the comments there know a big image to start up, let me know. We can do this now. So, looks like cumulatively the M1 has lower memory usage. Look at that. 3 containers using 3.6 megabytes and 1 container using 5.6. On the Intel box, we've got 3 containers using 6.3 megabytes and 1 container using 8.4 megabytes. All right. All right, folks. I don't know if you can post links in the live chat. Try doing that and see if that works. It might not let you. YouTube. So we got some results from multiple images. Now I do want to do another thing here, and that's to run a Node project. I have a Node web project here. Okay, let's take a look at that. All right. Oops. Code, Docker, Node web. This is just to show you what I'm running here. So I've got a Docker file, and we're going to be pulling in Node 16. And I'm going to use Express. So I'm going to run server.js, which looks like this. It's going to run on port 8080. And it's going to respond at the root with hello world node running in, and then process.architecture. It's going to print out what process is running under, and we'll be able to compare the two running instances on two different machines. So let's just go here and turn off all these containers. Or should I leave them running? Maybe I'll just leave them running. Why not? So Wildburn says, if you're asking if 8 gigabytes is enough on a Docker stream, the answer is no, go 16. Yeah, I'd say if you're going to be buying a machine right now and it's going to be one of the new M1s, definitely get 16, not the 8. First of all, the resale value is going to be much higher, and you're not going to be stuck. Let's do this node build here. And maybe I'll time this one too. Alright, so this is going to grab node, the node image, based on a Docker file, node 16, and build it. We'll see how long this takes. Alright, so this one took, what is it, 20 seconds? Yeah, 20 seconds. Let's try this over here on the Intel box. Boom. Wow. What? Oh, I must have already had a node image pulled down. Oh, that kind of messed up my test, huh? Wait, I don't have a node image pulled down? Not sure why that was so quick. Oh, I know why. I'm not in the right directory. Now I'm in the right directory. Okay. Bass Van Balen says, Docker prune for fair tests. We can do that. We can prune things. By the way, if you know the command to remove everything, whether it's running or not, that would be awesome. I'd love to know that. And this one took 26 seconds, so longer. So interesting, the node build took longer on the Intel than on the M1. I'm going to take a note of that, because that's interesting. I'm going to create a little spreadsheet to share later on with this information, because it might be helpful to some folks. And I'd like to continue doing these tests with Docker especially, because there's so many things in this environment, different configuration that people are running, and I just want to create a database of this information so people can use it and look it up easily. And when the new machines come out at the end of this year, we're going to be doing some more tests on those. So I'm pretty excited about that. So far the M1 has been pretty good, but with Docker, as you can see, it's kind of a wash. In fact, probably Intel is a little bit better in this case because more images will run on it. But at the end of this year, when the M2s come out, things might change. Ishik says, Alexander, sir, are you a DevOps specialist? Do I look like a DevOps specialist? No, I'm a web developer and a mobile developer. So I'm not a DevOps specialist. That's why it's taking me so long to do these Docker tests, because I really don't know what I'm doing, to be honest with you. Yeah, there we go, I said it. But I'm learning, and with the help of all you folks here that are helping with the commands, like docker prune a from Tarun, thanks for that. I'm going to try that right now. And Diego, thanks for that. Alright, so we've got this machine build. Before I prune everything, I just want to run this to see what happens here. Docker run -p. Let's map a port. Do I already have 8080 used up? I don't know. We'll see. 8080 Node web app. Okay. Okay, so we've got our proof. Look at that. Hello World node is running in ARM64. Let's do the same thing here. Docker run -p 8080. We'll map that to 8080 -d node web app. X64. Alright, let's take a look at activity monitor here. So CPU usage first. Where's our big honking Docker? Let's go to memory. There it is. 3.17. So, I mean, pretty negligible from what we started out with. I'm not running huge processes here. And this one is Kimu, 3.5, so a little bit bigger. I think, yeah, it was bigger at the beginning by 0.5, by half a gigabyte, and it's bigger now by by 0.4 of a gigabyte. So the memory usage is a little bit bigger. And if you are going to be running big images on the M1, then you're probably going to run into a wall. And if you're used to the Intel machines and the images executing on there at a certain size and you're not fitting into an 8 gigabyte machine or a 16, you might want to account for that. Alright, let's see what you are saying. Diego says, would you prefer an M1 for back-end web development over, let's say, a business class Dell Precision or even a Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon? Well, funny you should say that because I've been doing some tests comparing the M1 MacBook Air, not even the MacBook Pro, but they're pretty much the same. And I've been comparing that to the Dell XPS series, and for some tests, it really beats the Dell XPS, like especially JavaScript related stuff. But if it comes to .NET development or anything like that, definitely go with the PC version. And the Dell XPS is a really nice machine. I love that machine. So the question is, would I take an M1 over an XPS right now? No. I would take a Dell XPS over an M1 right now. Just because it's so well built. And I did test a couple of PCs, including a Lenovo IdeaPad, and I got another one right here. More videos coming. So I'm going to test this one out. This is a ThinkBook. This is an AMD Ryzen 7 machine. So we're going to be testing that one out, comparing that to the M1. As far as like raw speed and doing certain tasks, the M1 has been performing really well, but as far as compatibility and what I would use it for, I would still prefer an Intel-based machine. And if it was a choice between the XPS and the M1, I would get the XPS. If it's a choice between the M1 and the Intel MacBook Pro, I would still go for the Intel MacBook Pro. So hopefully that answers your question. Mr. Mirror says, can someone ask him to do tests on GPU computation? I don't know. Can somebody ask me that? Mr. Mirror? You got an example for me? Let me know. What GPU computation are you talking about? Tarun says, try running WordPress via Docker compose file. So WordPress, I did look this up actually. WordPress does not yet support M1. So it's an example of an x86 or a 64 based image. I believe it's a 64 based image that will not run on the M1, but maybe through the emulation layer it can. Has anybody tried this? Huh. Okay. Oh, look at that. There is an ARM64 now of WordPress available. Interesting. My question is, how would WordPress work when it uses a database that's not supported on ARM? So I'm not quite sure. Doesn't WordPress use MySQL as its database? And if that's the case, how is that going to work? We can try this. If anybody wants to see this, vote in the comments, please. Juan says, would you compare Docker performance on Linux and other fakes, Mac and Windows, against each other? So I did start doing this with Parallels, and I can also compare Docker on Windows. When I pop open that Lenovo box, I'll make a video on that. That's a great idea, Juan. Thank you for that. I will have to do that. Okay. Diego says that's going to be a good comparison. Ryzen 7. Yes, I'm looking forward to that because it's going to be the first Ryzen series machine that I'm going to be testing. I've actually never ever owned an AMD machine. I've always went Intel just because, I don't know, we tend to stick to what we know, right? But AMD has been really kicking some butt lately. So Pawan says, in some review they said MacBook Air Pro M1 are kind of entry-level models. This is true. They're the first generation. They're a very basic machine that does its job, and they happen to be a RISC-based architecture, so they're super fast by default, but they're entry-level machines. That's why I'm so excited for the end of this year. Hopefully, I'm guessing that they're going to release the M2s with MacBook Pros, and those are going to be crazy because ARM v9 is also out, and Apple is probably going to use ARM v9. Yogesh says, what about Homebrew? I think you mean, does Homebrew work? Yes, yes it does. Vibehoff says, can I use or rent a PC on cloud utilizing AWS or something? Yeah. So AWS actually has ARM instances also. And I believe, yeah, you can just kick up a virtual machine in the cloud and use that if you need to. So Raihan says, yes, please try WordPress. Please test, Donaldo says. How do you vote in the comments? I guess I guess you can't. I guess you just did. Bruno says, does M1 support? So we are going to do some WordPress stuff right now. Let's see if there's anything on my list that I want to do before we do that. I think we're good. There is one thing that I haven't gotten to today, and that's build X command. We might have to do another live stream for that. Yeah, Bruno, M1 does support Flutter, and I made a video on that just recently. Volker thinks that M2MB Pro will be shown at WWDC in 4 weeks. We'll see. Excited about that. Diego thinks that M2 is going to be 3 nanometers. Maybe. Maybe. We'll see. So it's interesting that IBM announced a 2 nanometer process yesterday. I don't know if anybody caught that, but that looks pretty sick. Okay, so let's try this. We're going to try WordPress. All right. On the M1, here we go. Docker pull WordPress. So let's clean this up a little bit. I'm going to do docker purge -a. I don't think I did that right, did I? Purge. It's prune. Am I going crazy here? I must be going crazy because you all are typing docker prune -a, and that's what I'm typing, but it's not working for me. And some say that the definition of insanity is running the same command multiple times and expecting different results. So I must be insane. Let's try it over here. I'm trying to I'm trying to clean everything up in one command. All my containers and images, just blow everything away. Is there a way to do that? Docker system prune. Interesting. Okay. Oh, you folks are gonna give me some commands to run that are gonna delete my everything, aren't you? That's what I asked for, I guess. So Raihan says this command. The problem with the Docker system prune command is that it leaves the running containers in place. Maybe I should just add the F command. No? Nice one, Juan. I guess this is why they have UIs, for people like me who don't know what they're doing. But what works, works. Won't argue with that. Okay, we're clean. Juan says Docker stop. We'll have to try that next time. Okay. So we're back at the beginning. Let's get this WordPress thing working. And I'm going to do the same thing over here on my Intel machine. So that gets me WordPress. By the way, anybody use this image in the comments? $494.78. So that would be the image for, oh, look at this. The image for Intel for WordPress is 550 megabytes. The ARM image is 494. And these are two different images that we got pulled down. So it automatically grabs, Docker decides what system you're on, what architecture you're on, and automatically grabs the right one for you. We can force a different architecture to be pulled down by including a tag, I believe. But let's do this test for now. Just looking if there's instructions here. And And there are. So we're going to do that. Probably don't need this. Oh boy. Okay, so I've got the container up. There it is. I'm not familiar with this image and I've never used this. So, not quite sure if this will actually run the website or not. The WordPress admin tool. That's the last time I've ever used WordPress. Okay, so it does need a database to run, and I don't have one. And I believe WordPress requires MySQL as the backend. It doesn't say that here, but I think it does. And if that's the case, MySQL there's not an ARM image of MySQL available yet. So I don't know how WordPress is supposed to run with MySQL, but perhaps it can use a different database that's not ARM targeted. Anybody know the answer to that? Please post them in the chat. So Juan found an image, Docker run Night Funbox? I don't know what that is. Dimitri says hello from Russia. Hello, hello. And yeah, we did get the admin tool running, so WordPress admin tool is working fine on the M1. MariaDB, there it is. It has an ARM64 instance. Never even heard of this. A lot of people are voting for MariaDB. Huh. Okay. Exited. Why did it exit? I guess I need to read the instructions, don't I? Great. $33.06. Okay. Huh. Alright, so we've got MariaDB running. So a lot of people are saying that that I'm not doing it the right way, that you can use Docker Compose to do it. Yeah, maybe you are correct, and maybe that's the best way to do it. But the idea here is that I wanted to see if we could just get up and running quickly. I don't have all the Docker Compose knowledge. See the console output, Volker says. Well, it looks like it started up. So I do have the I do have it running. But I guess I need to hook up my WordPress admin tool now to the database, right? So that's the next step. Anybody know how to configure the admin tool here with what I've just set up? Let me know. So Bass says, also wondering how Docker Compose will work in Mac. It's same as Docker. I think it's installed with Docker for Mac. So you already have it. I might have it, Bass, but it's the setup and knowing how to use it that I don't have. So I might have to do another stream for that, folks, because we are already at 1 hour and yeah, we're almost at 1.5 hours here, which is longer than I wanted to go by half an hour. But we do see that there is compatibility with the M1 for WordPress, folks, and I'm sure that this will work with this database eventually. You just gotta set the configuration correctly. Somebody suggested I use root as the username, and I did not change the password from what it was pasted as, so my secret password it is. Always the most secure password you can use is one that has dashes in it. Juan says he wants to see Docker run 9cat. What is that? 9cat. Can you tell me what that is before I crash my entire infrastructure here? Nothing against you, Juan, or I know you mean well, but I really don't know who you are. And people on the internet giving me commands to run is a little bit sketchy. Trust me, I'm an engineer. That's what I'm afraid of, Juan. Alright. So WordPress works. I'm sure we can do another stream to figure that out and all the details and setting it up. But we did the admin tool and we did the database, so all that needs is hooking that up. What is 9cat? What does it mean? Let's do it. Screw it. Docker run dash IT dash name oh man. Am I supposed to know what the 9cat is, folks? Because I don't. Maybe I'm out of the loop. Oh boy. Okay, I hope I have this right. Let's try it. Oh, I didn't. I messed something up. Anybody see it? Ah. What? Anything going on here? Am I supposed to see anything here? Is there an image? Okay. It's running. Okay, it probably doesn't work on the M1. Yeah. Should we do this? Yeah, it's not gonna run on the ARM processor. Hey, a failing test is good also. This is a good example of a failing test, folks. Alright, I'm gonna try this Nyan-Cat because I just gotta know what Nyan-Cat is. I'm gonna do this on my Intel box. Alright? Let's do it. What the? What is this? What am I seeing right here? This is... Oh my gosh. So this is Nyan-Cat, huh? Alright. I can't believe this doesn't work on the M1. Somebody should really port this over to ARM. Come on, folks. And I think that this is a great place to end this stream. Thank you so much, folks. Thanks for coming. And don't forget to enter into the raffle, right? I'm giving away JetBrains. So after this video is over, there's going to be a comment section down below. It's probably not available right now, but it may be. Depends where you watch the stream. So there's going to be a comment section down below. Comment down there, and I'll pick a random person. Wow, Shyam Garan, thank you. A Python app will be good, Alexander Ziskind. That's on my list to do, and that's going to be a separate video, so don't worry, that's coming. Thank you so much, though. Who's going to port this over to ARM? I don't know, but somebody should. All right, folks. Thanks so much for coming. I'm going to pick a winner in the next week or so. We're going to keep this one shorter than usual, 2 weeks. So keep an eye out for that. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and I will see you all later. See ya.